Hello all, hope you're having a great day today. Today we are talking about leading to victory. This is chapter 12. So here we go. Leaders substantially affect the performance of organizations. Thus, organizations are increasingly looking for ways to train and develop leaders. One current focus is team leadership as more and more organizations turn to teams. The good news is that everyone has leadership potential. This means that you too can become an effective leader. So in this chapter, we will learn about leadership traits, behavior, and contemporary and situational leadership theories. Through the use of the contingency management model, you can develop your ability to analyze employees' capabilities and choose the appropriate leadership style to maximize performance in a given situation. Paul Fenton was determined to be a hockey player in the NHL. Although he did play in the NHL from 1984 to 1992, his true success has come off the ice and in the boardroom. Fenton played for the Hartford Whalers, New York Rangers, Los Angeles Kings, Winnipeg Jets, Toronto Maple Leafs, and San Jose Sharks. He is considered the first American player to have scored 50 goals in a season, which he accomplished while playing for the Binghamton Whalers in the AHL. But every professional athlete has to retire at some point, often before the age of 40. Paul was able to rely on a network of friends he had made during his lengthy journey through the NHL. His college coach at Boston College, Jack Parker, was his mentor as he entered the NHL. Former assistant general manager of the Whalers, Jack Vieira, had coached Fenton when he was just 16 years old. Ultimately, Vieira, as the general manager of the newly founded Anaheim Ducks, asked Fenton to take charge of the organization's professional scouting. After 5 years at Anaheim with the Ducks, Fenton moved to the Nashville Predators, where he served as director of player personnel for 8 years. Paul spent 15 seasons with the Predators and 7 as the club's assistant general manager. Paul was in charge of all player acquisitions when he drafted Ryan Suter and Shea Weber in 2003. In 2012, Suter signed as a free agent with the Minnesota Wild for 13 years and $98 million. Weber decided to stay with the Predators after the Philadelphia Flyers offered a 14-year, $110 million offer sheet. Apparently, Paul is a good evaluator of talent. Paul Fenton has a pleasant demeanor. He is quick with a smile and even quicker with an upbeat assessment of new young players he has scouted. These likable traits were evident even when Paul Fenton played Pee-wee and high school hockey. He always led by example. He wasn't the most graceful skater, but he worked hard, passed the puck to his teammates, and had a knack for scoring goals in bunches. Early in Paul's career, a scout told him, "You're not Bobby Orr. You've got your degree, you should use it." Paul, though, showed determination and did have a successful playing career. Better yet, he parlayed that experience into a professional management career. His position as assistant GM required him to travel around the world scouting for talent. He was also involved in many day-to-day decisions to help the team run properly. He was not afraid to get his hands dirty and do some work around the Bridgestone Arena. Once again, his honesty and hard work paid off, and he was promoted through the Predator organization. After being interviewed for many GM positions, Paul was finally signed to a multi-year contract by the Minnesota Wild to be their general manager of all hockey operations. As Wild owner Craig Leopold said, Paul is uniquely suited for this job, having played 10 years of professional hockey and holding 25 years of management experience in the NHL. His gift of evaluating talent is obvious in Nashville's roster and recent success. My relationship with Paul goes back to my early days in Nashville, and I know what Wild hockey fans are going to love: Paul's infectious passion for the game and unsurpassed work ethic. He's the right person to deliver a Stanley Cup to the state of hockey. Paul Fenton continues to lead by example. The lessons here are many. Have a dream, yes. Follow your dream, sure. But most of all, develop the ability to make it happen. You have to work hard to stay in the sport that you love. Leadership is one of the most talked about, written about, researched management topics. If you research leadership on the website https://scholargoogle.com, you will find about 3.9 million articles on the subject. Walk into a bookstore and you can find lots of books on the latest leadership gimmicks and fads, but unfortunately, most are not based on scientific research. There are two common questions about leadership. Are leaders made or born, and can leadership skills be developed? The answer: first, we are all born with leadership potential, but some of us have more natural ability than others. Second, research supports the idea that leadership skills can be developed. If leadership skills can't be developed, why would colleges offer management and leadership courses, and why would companies spend millions on leadership training and development programs? A common goal of sport management programs is to develop leadership skills. Learning the leadership theories in this chapter will help you develop your leadership skills. As Vince Lombardi said, their leaders are made, they are not born. They are made by hard effort, which is the price which all of us must pay to achieve any goal that is worthwhile. Leaders influence people to work to achieve the organization's objectives. We often use the words manager and leader interchangeably, which we shouldn't, because they are not necessarily the same. Leading is a management function. Remember, there are four: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. Coaches and managers are given positional power that is broader in terms of responsibility than leadership, but leadership is critical to organizational success. Unfortunately, not all managers are leaders, and of course there are leaders who are not managers. Many of us have been in situations in which one of our peers had more influence in the department or team than did the manager or coach. Even though it is generally agreed that no universal set of leadership traits exist, researchers continue to study and write about leadership traits. Why? Even though leaders don't universally possess the same qualities, a lot of leaders do possess certain qualities. And the good news is that these qualities can be learned. Fortune senior author Jeff Colvin said that the most important thing about a leader is traits, not skills. You can teach and learn basic functional skills, counting operations, but it is difficult to develop traits. Also recall that more organizations are giving personal tests. The contemporary perspectives of leadership are based on traits, which we will discuss. Your personality is made up of traits, so personality is part of trait theory because your personality affects your leadership behavior. Both extroverts and narcissists tend to seek leadership roles, as do people seeking power. Recall that our discussion of the acquired needs motivation theory in Chapter 11 described the management profile as having a strong need for power, whereas people with high need for affiliation don't generally seek management careers. By the late 1940s, most research into leadership had shifted from analyzing traits to analyzing what effective leaders do. To this end, researchers compared the behavior of effective and ineffective leaders in search of one best leadership style. Behavioral theorists investigate the leadership style of effective leaders. Before we discuss the basic styles of leadership, two-dimensional leadership, and the leadership grid behavioral theories, I recommend that you complete the self-assessment to determine your theory X, theory Y, and leadership style. Early leadership researchers assumed that leaders are born and not made. So, trait theorists investigated characteristics that make leaders effective. Over 70 years and more than 300 studies, these theorists analyzed many physical and psychological qualities, such as appearance, aggressiveness, self-reliance, persuasiveness, and dominance, in an effort to identify a set of traits that successful leaders possess. The idea was that this list of traits would guide the promotion of the most promising candidates to managerial leadership positions. Leadership style is the combination of traits, skills, and behaviors that managers use to interact with employees. in the 1930s, even before behavioral theory became popular. Researchers at the University of Iowa, led by Kurt Lewin, studied the leadership styles of managers and identified 3 basic styles. Autocratic. This manager makes the decisions. They tell employees what to do and closely supervise them. Basically, theory X behavior. The democratic manager encourages employee participation in decisions, works with employees to determine what to do, and doesn't supervise them closely. This is theory Y behavior. I'll be honest, I kind of roll into that democratic. I like for everybody to make that decision with the group. The laissez-faire is the manager that lets employees go about their business without much input. Thus, the employees decide what to do and take action, and the manager does not necessarily follow up. Structuring and consideration styles. In 1945, the Personnel Research Board of the Ohio State University began a study to determine effective leadership styles. In the process, researchers developed an instrument known as the Leader Behavior Description Questionnaire, or LBDQ. Respondents to the questionnaire perceived leaders' behavior on 2 distinct dimensions: structuring, which is the extent to which the leader takes charge to plan, organize, lead, and control as the employee performs the tasks. This dimension focuses on getting the job done. Consideration, the extent to which the leader communicates to develop trust, friendship, support, and respect. This dimension focuses on developing relationships with employees. So focusing on getting the job done and focusing on the relationship with the employees, those 2-dimensional leaders. At approximately the same time as the Ohio State's study began, the University of Michigan Survey Research Center initiated its own leadership study. This research identified the same 2 dimensions or styles of leadership behavior as the Ohio research. However, the Michigan researchers called the 2 styles job-centered, which is analogous to structuring, and employee-centered, which is analogous to consideration. 2-dimensional leaders focus on job structure and employee considerations, a focus that results in 4 possible leadership styles. In 1945, Ralph Stogdill at Ohio State University and Rensis Likert at the University of Michigan began independent studies of leadership styles. Although the research teams used different terminology, they identified the same 2 dimensions. UM's team called the 2 dimensions job-centered and employee-centered. OSU's team called them initiating structure and consideration. The OSU and UM leadership models also differ in structure. UM placed the 2 dimensions at opposite ends of the same continuum, where OSU considered the 2 dimensions independent of one another. Both dimensions measure the manager's behavior when interacting with employees. Initiating structure, or job-centered, is the extent to which managers take charge to plan, organize, lead, and control as employees perform tasks. This dimension focuses on getting the job done. With consideration is employee-centered, and so the extent to which the managers develop trust, friendship, support, and respect. It focuses on developing rapport with the employees. In the 2-dimensional model, managers get the job done by directing people and developing supportive relationships. A combination of the 2 dimensions results in the 4 leadership styles shown in the OSU 2x2 matrix in figure 12.1, but only 2 leadership styles in the UM model. The situational leadership theories extend the use of the 2 dimensions of leadership. In the 1960s, Robert Blake and Jane Moulton developed the managerial grid, which later became the leadership grid, developed by Blake and Ann Adams McCants. The leadership grid uses the same dimensions as the 2-dimensional model, and the grid, these dimensions are called concern for production and concern for people. The x-axis label is concern for production, And the y-axis is the concern for people. 1 equals low and 9 equals high on each axis. The leadership grid identifies the ideal leadership style as having a high concern for both production and people. Because the grid measures the 2 dimensions on a scale from 1 to 9, combinations are possible from which Blake and McCants categorized 5 major leadership styles. 1 and 1 is an impoverished leader, shows low concern for both production and people. They do the minimum required to remain employed. 9 and 1, so authority, compliance leaders show high concern for production, but low concern for people. They focus on getting the job done by treating people like machines. If you reverse that, the 1-9 is the country club leader that shows low concern for production and high concern for people. They strive to maintain a friendly atmosphere without much regard for production. 5 and 5 is a middle-of-the-road leader that balances their concerns for production and people. They strive for performance and morale levels that are minimally satisfactory. And you have 9 and 9. Team leaders show high concern for production and for people. They strive for maximum performance and maximum employee satisfaction. I don't know about you, but this is really where I would like to be. I would like to be focused on production, but also people. I feel like when you throw one out or the other, then you end up lopsided. Now we're going to talk about contemporary behavioral perspectives. And one of those theories was the Leader Membership Exchange Theory, or LMX. And it is based on the relationship between leaders and their followers. LMX emphasizes the unique one-on-one relationship that develops between managers and each of their subordinates. Effective leader-member exchange, leaders create a positive relationship with each person. The LMX theory states that relationships are important and leadership is about building relationships to influence all members of your team. LMX is important because our personal and professional happiness and success are based on our relationships. LMX research also identifies the effects of in and out groups. Leadership should bring out the best in people, but putting them in out groups doesn't do that. Clearly, if you develop or allow in and out groups, you will not have group cohesiveness. They create status differences between members, which leads to conflict. LMX leadership usually results in the 2 groups fighting for power and using unethical politics. Again, you need to be inclusive in developing positive relationships with everyone without creating in and out groups. The world champion NBA Golden State Warriors basketball team success is based on inclusion. Although initially invited to the White House by President Trump, the team voted not to accept the invitation. In lieu of a visit to the White House, we have decided that we'll constructively use our trip to the nation's capital in February to celebrate equality, diversity, and inclusion, the values that we embrace as an organization. That's pretty powerful. When you get a job, if there are in and out groups, your boss will usually start by believing you should be with the in group. If there are clear-cut in and out groups, you should be able to recognize the members of each because the out group tends to try to recruit new members to its coalition against the in group. Belonging to the in group has its career benefits. Recall that to advance, you need to get top evaluation ratings from your boss. So figure out what you need to do to succeed. Consultant Jack Welch says that it is important to know what the boss really thinks of you, but he says that only 5 to 10% of employees really know. Next, we'll talk about transformational and transactional leaders. And charismatic leaders are top-level managers. An executive can be both visionary and charismatic. These charismatic people develop strategic visions of future success and inspire others to achieve the vision. Steve Jobs was a visionary leader who developed and improved disruptive, innovative products, including the Apple Macintosh PC, the iPod, iTunes, the iPhone, and Pixar animated films. Jobs' success was largely attributed to his incredible charisma that inspired tremendous loyalty to create great products. Jobs was called a Pied Piper of charisma by his frenemy, Bill Gates of Microsoft. But how many Steve Jobs are there? Most executives are neither visionary nor charismatic, and some are just one or the other. We'll discuss each separately. Visionary leaders bring about innovative change and affect the future. Visionaries create an image of the organization in the future. The vision creates shared purpose and provides direction for setting objectives and writing strategic plans. Professor Russ Ackoff said that visionary leaders create opportunities. They envision a desirable future and invent ways of bringing it about. Martin Luther King Jr. had a vision of equality for all that was expressed with vivid imagery in his "I Have a Dream" speech. Charismatic leaders create enthusiasm to achieve objectives by developing strong relationships with followers they may not even know personally, producing strong loyalty that influences followers' belief, behavior, and performance. Charisma is determined by the leader's personality traits and behavior. John F. Kennedy and Mother Teresa are often given as examples of charismatic leaders. NBA star LeBron James and NFL quarterback Tom Brady are sport examples. Charisma comes from having followers, but followers can also take it away. Consider pro golfer Tiger Woods. Research supports the idea that charismatic leaders have a strong effect on performance and that charismatic leadership skills can be developed. Transformational leaders are also top-level executives, and they are commonly compared against transactional leaders at lower levels of management. However, some top-level managers are transactional. Both affect performance, but do so differently, as discussed here. Transformational leaders emphasize continuous learning and making innovative changes. Many charismatic leaders are also visionary and transformational leaders, but few executives are all three. Transformers gain acceptance of the objectives and motivate employees to go beyond and transcend their own self-interest for the good of the team and the organization. Jeff Bezos founded Amazon and transformed the way people buy books. Then, with his e-reader, he transformed how many people read books, and he also popularized tablets. Bezos has also made it possible to buy just about anything from Amazon through various electronic devices, including simply asking Alexa using Amazon Echo. Theo Epstein has been a transformational leader twice. When he arrived, the Red Sox had not won a World Series since 1918. Epstein was brought in as the general manager to inspire the team and lead it to win. He succeeded by finding new players who were positive role models and who worked well together. The Red Sox won 2 World Series under Epstein's guidance. Epstein did it again when he switched to be the general manager of the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs had not won a World Series in 108 years, but Epstein assembled a strong minor league farm system that matured to win the 2016 World Series. Transactional leaders focus on stability as they implement change by creating standing plans to standardize policies, procedures, and rules. Transactional leaders emphasize exchange. Exchange is about rewarding or punishing based on follower performance. The exchange process can be both constructive, with promising rewards for performance, and corrective, correcting mistakes before or after they happen. Recall that LMX leadership is based on relationship exchanges. Organizational politics is based on reciprocity, and reinforcement theory motivates through rewards. Put them together and you can conclude that these relationships drive effective transactional leadership. People want leaders, but they reject self-serving and authentic leaders. Symbolic, servant, and authentic leaders are three types of leaders that focus on creating a helping environment so employees can meet objectives. Symbolic leaders establish and maintain a strong organizational culture. An organization's workforce learns the organization's culture, the shared values, beliefs, and assumptions about how workers should behave in the organization through its leadership. Symbolic leadership starts with top management and flows down to middle and first line managers. Symbolic leaders go beyond looking out for their own self-interests and focus on meeting the needs of others. Servant leaders look out for the employees' and organization's interest rather than their own self-interest. It's not all about you, it's about them. Turn your hierarchical organizational chart upside down and report to your subordinates. What can I do to help you do your job? What do you need from me to succeed? They try to create a win-win situation for everyone. Isn't this the foundation of effective relationships, true friendship, and happiness? Servant leaders create strong relationships that result in higher level performance. Authentic leaders develop open, honest, trusting relationships, leading by example. People often spot a phony, such as when a narcissist is nice to you, it's just to get something from you. Have you ever seen that? The question is, are you being yourself or are you putting on an act for others? Your inauthentic behavior may cause relationship problems and other kinds of problems. You can only be on your best behavior or put on an act for so long before your true self comes through. Former NBA championship coach Phil Jackson says, you have to be true to yourself as a leader. And that concludes our session for today. We will pick up again with part 2 on another time. Have a great day.